Hello, Frontstretch family. I'm Chase Folsom. I'm here with Anthony Damcott, and we are live in North Wilkesboro Speedway's Victory Lane following the Cars Tour Window World 125, the event that was supposed to run in May with the All-Star race. Unfortunately got rained out, and we've just now run it in August. We had a first-time winner tonight. The Canadian rookie Treyten Lapcevich ended up in Victory Lane. We caught up with him post-race. How would you assess his performance tonight, and how would you assess his comments in our post-race interview?
Well, I'd say Treyten he's a very humble person. He knows he's kind of on a learning curve here. For those of you who don't know, he is the reigning Pinty Series, well, I guess it's now the Canada Series, reigning Canada Series champion. And instead of going to defend his title, he came here to run full-time in the Cars Tour. Obviously, he's been consistent. He's run really well in the top 5, top 10 most of the season. Obviously, hadn't been to Victory Lane yet. So obviously, he was very excited about that. He was very, like I said, he was humble. He was very grateful for the opportunity. Obviously, Chad Bryant Racing, a big ARCA mainstay now here in the Cars Tour, finally getting that big victory this year. Especially, to get your first win on the track, North Wilkesboro. This is the biggest race of the year for the Cars Tour. So to get your first win here is something special, and I'm sure that he was incredibly grateful, and I'm sure this is a night that he won't soon forget.
He had a couple incidents in the race. He missed a shift on a restart, and he had a comment about that, and then some comments about his future as well.
Yeah, he had mentioned that he is, we asked if he was, if there was an opportunity opening up for maybe something down the road, whether that be ARCA, Truck, Xfinity, and he said we're working on it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Treyten Lapcevich in a truck next year, maybe making some part-time, maybe ARCA. I don't know obviously we don't know how far those talks have progressed. It could just be a part-time deal, but I wouldn't be surprised to see our 2023 Canada Series champion in a higher series next year in NASCAR or ARCA.
Another guy that will be making his Truck Series debut coming up at Richmond, Connor Hall, was unfortunately caught up in the incident that was caused by Lapcevich missing a shift on a lap 8 restart. Among others, Caden Honeycutt, I believe Cameron Bolin, Jacob Hefner, Cade Brown were all caught up in it. Sammy Smith as well, making his junior motorsports start tonight. A lot of heavy hitters taken out in that. Really affected the outcome of that race. Caden Honeycutt was really spicy post-race. What were his comments on the incident?
Well, he basically didn't understand how people are missing shifts, halfway through the season. And obviously he knew that the 77 was one who missed the shift because we're halfway through the season. He's a full-time guy. So, I understand where he's coming from, that, we shouldn't be missing shifts, if you're running full-time. But, when we talked to Lapcevich after the race, first of all, he was very apologetic about it. He was torn up about causing that crash. He had mentioned that they're fighting clutch problems on the car. So, plus it could be inexperience. Again, big learning curve for Treyten Lapcevich coming from the Canada Series. So yeah, but Honeycutt, I think, was more upset about the fact that, we were missing shifts halfway through the season, and he told me, quote, "That's not racing." And, even more upsetting, and I'm sure other people felt the same way, was, again, we had this race postponed from May. And, a lot of these guys, Cars Tour doesn't have a big budget, spent all this money to come back here in August and put on a show, and it's over, before, we even hit the 1 quarter mark. So yeah, very, very upset with, Treyten Lapcevich, Honeycutt was, but it's kind of ironic that guy who missed a shift ended up standing right where we are here in Victory Lane at the end of the night.
Another guy that was disappointed in Lapcevich missing a shift was Dylan Wilson, the North Wilkesboro local, making his return to the series tonight. He did clarify, as did a bunch of other guys, that whoever it was that was running 6, I can't recall at the time, that ran into the back of Lapcevich, blew the radiator, and there was a bunch of standing water on the racetrack. That's why everybody piled in, as you might have seen on the replay. But what that set up is a really intriguing points battle going into Ace and then Wake County and Florence to close out this month, because Connor Hall, he battled back, and then they had an axle problem as well. So he ended up 18th. Meanwhile, Treyten Lapcevich wins the race. Carson Quapple finishes 4th. Butterbean finishes 5th. An off night for Brent Cruz. He was involved in the wreck as well. but everybody's closing back in on Connor Hall, who's already had a target on his back. What do you make of this championship battle we have coming up? And at this point in time, who would be your favorite to come out on top?
Well, I mean, you said it earlier before the qualifying even went off. Is the way to make this points battle tight is for Connor Hall to have a bad night, essentially crash. And what did he do? He crashed. Props to his team. Props to Nelson Motorsports. I mean, they sawzawed the entire front end of the car off. I mean, I looked at that car and said, "There's no way it's continuing."
That was a modified.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, his engine was getting pretty cool for the remainder of the night. So, props to Nelson Motorsports. They understand how big the battle is. Obviously, great. Brendan Queen did what he needed to do. Carson Quapple did what he needed to do. Carson Quapple, he missed that race earlier in the year. He says he's not part of the points battle, but he is part of the points battle. The very real shot that he can come away with the title. And then Treyten Lapcevich. We talk about Brendan Queen and Connor Hall. We talked about that rivalry and how Carson Quapple's kind of waiting in the wings, but Treyten Lapcevich is not far behind them in points either. And tonight, again, what a great night to get your first career win, because not only you're doing it at the biggest race of the year for the Cars Tour, but you're also in the top 5 in points, and now you're in a position where you might have an outside shot at the championship. So, to answer your question about who the favorite would be, I'd still go with Connor Hall. I think him and Nelson have a good partnership going, and I think that they've had the consistency the whole year. Obviously we saw tonight, things can change, so it's anyone's race, but I still think that Connor Hall might be the one to come out on top at season's end.
Connor Hall has certainly been, you could say, the fastest car this season, but he's got some hungry hounds behind him. You got Carson Quapple, who is the 2-time defending champion. Brendan Queen, who, when they get it right, that car is untouchable. And then Treyten Lapcevich, the rookie, Brent Cruz, the rookie. Those are wild cards. I don't have the points in front of me. I believe Queen and Lapcevich will be all but tied for second. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Pro Late Model race. Tristan McKee, on his 14th birthday, what a performance from him. He got the lead, I believe it was on the start of the race actually, from Nick Loden, and never really looked back. He was able to run the late model stock car race tonight as well. There's always a big conversation about what age should kids be in a late model. What is your take on that when you see a 14-year-old come out here and dominate a pro late model race at the biggest track on the circuit?
Well, it's really hard, right? I mean, there's the argument that, Tristan McKee, he's not even old enough to have a learner's permit. And he's out here in a full-body stock car going much faster than you would on the highway. Well, maybe not that much faster, but still, you're still going a lot faster than you would normally. And he's out here, he completely blitzed the field tonight in the pro late model race. So, it's always a tough battle, because then we see incidences. I know there was an incident that Landon Huffman had earlier in the year where someone who was very much wasn't old enough to even have a learner's permit destroyed Landon's car, and that sparked a whole debate. And in that instance, yeah, maybe that's a problem, and we should look into that. But then, again, the flip side, Tristan McKee comes out tonight, dominates the pro late model race, wasn't doing awfully bad in the late model stock race. Obviously, he couldn't finish the race. He blew a tire, hit the turn 1 wall. Unfortunate end to his night. But personally, I always hate giving my opinions on things because I can see both sides. But also at the same time, I do feel that, like, if you don't have if you're not old enough for a learner's permit, how are you able to get in a stock car? So, I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but that's kind of where I flow. Even though, again, Tristan McKee put on a show tonight in the pro late model.
I think it's a tough conversation. The pro late model is a little more reasonable. I could see a world where they put a track length distance, like a track length limit on it, like where they can't run in North Wilkesboro because it's over half a mile, or they could even say 0.4 of a mile is the limit, like that's the max. But it's certainly an ever-evolving conversation that we'll continue to have until there's a definite ruling put on it. But that's just about going to do it for us tonight at North Wilkesboro. Follow along the channel. We're going to have Knoxville Nationals coverage next week, as well as Ace with the Cars Tour. And then later this month, we'll be at Wake County and Florence. We'll be right back here at North Wilkesboro Speedway to end the Cars Tour season in October. So if you like what you watch here, subscribe to the Grassroots channel. For Anthony Damcott, I've been Chase Folsom. Good night from North Wilkesboro.
Steven Stump of Frontstretch.com here. Come back for more great racing videos, and if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.